Paws Up Podcast, episode 46. My name is Kevin Brawl, your host, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Jake Gibson. We have a lot to talk about today. FIU football, FIU basketball, FIU baseball, and on top of that, FIU swimming and diving. We have a lot to go through today through the news break as well. Tomorrow, the Panthers take on the New Mexico State Aggies. In basketball, that is the first home conference game. A lot going on on campus as well. Panther Power doing a big giveaway with Chick-fil-A, a lot of cool pans. So,
I didn't even hear this. Now I'm very excited for this episode.
I forgot to send you too. But yeah, if you go on their Instagram, our good friends at Panther Power doing some cool giveaways there. But Jake, what's up? A lot to get into today. We're talking about 4 players that are entering the NFL, that are declared for the NFL draft for FIU. Previewing a little bit of baseball, going into little thoughts on the Jacksonville State game that you were able to watch. And just previewing what's coming up at FIU Athletics. A little, we talked about we need to do these type of podcasts. And I know it's the second straight week, but it definitely feels like it's a needed other week. We were supposed to have, I'll mention it, I don't care. We're supposed to have Jonathan Abar on the podcast, but unfortunately, he was not available this week. So we're doing this today, and it's a cool little episode, talk a little bit about the NFL and who's possibly going to go up to the next level for FIU. First player to possibly get drafted since, I believe, 2020.
Yeah, it's nice to get some. We'll get some FIU basketball content next week, don't you guys? Well, we're going to get some content tomorrow, of course, because all of us are going to be at the game tomorrow. But even before we get started, how about that updated intro, Kevin? It's nice to get some new clips finally.
That's super cool, especially the Guido one.
For our friends at FIU for FIU football. Baseball, basketball, and soccer. We need to do a bit of updating, a bit of housekeeping for the new year. I thought that was a great way to start it off. But yeah, like you said, it's really cool to see these FIU players have a chance to go to the big leagues. It doesn't get any bigger in football than the NFL, and all these guys have worked super hard during their time with FIU, and all of them are deserving to find spots somewhere in the NFL for what they've done. And we're going to talk about that real quick, but it's a cool time, but it's also a sad time because all this talk means that football's just about over, man. It sucks. It sucks.
The national championship game was, I wouldn't say disappointing for the most part. We can talk about that a little bit.
It got off a fun first half.
Yeah, it was a very fun first half, and then kind of you noticed that Michigan. And I didn't tell. I don't think I told you this. I think I may have, but I said these are 2 very good offenses, Washington and Michigan. Very fun game, but I think it ended up being which defense would have stepped up the most. And I mean, you saw it against Alabama. Michigan's defense is certainly one of the best. So
Michigan, not to mention Washington's run defense. Oh my goodness, they just could not stop that Michigan back. I forget his name. He had like almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Man, dude, Michigan had their way on offense. And,
hey, John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh. I think it is.
John Harbaugh finally gets the natty.
Gets his natty and gets probably his way to the NFL. Probably with the Chargers. I know the Las Vegas Raiders were also interested in him. So
a bunch of teams, have empty spots. Atlanta, I think Tennessee just fired their coach.
You just hope it works, though. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I think about it. I mean, look at how it worked for Urban Meyer. Obviously, different situation. John Harbaugh actually went to the Super Bowl. He led the 49ers there, but you never know what happens there. And obviously, we don't have to touch on it too much. But Nick Saban retiring. I mean, Miami legend, 1 year with the Dolphins, I think it was. So
it was not a great year with the Dolphins, but he's obviously done a lot for college football. I believe he played FIU once, and like in the mid 2000s, I want to say, and as he usually does, kick the crap out of G5 schools. It is what it is, but just a lot of coaching shakeups all around both pro football and college football. It's nice to have a bit of longevity with our coach, of course, Mike McIntyre, hoping he and this team have an amazing 2024. We even have some news about 2024 coming up in Newsbreak, but today's all about the members of FIU who put in the hard work this season, who set some records even, and have declared the NFL draft. It's not easy to get drafted. As a matter of fact, it's almost impossible for some people, especially if you're not from a big name college, like a big name Power 5 college. But FIU has had some players in their history drafted. A lot have gone undrafted and have found success in the NFL. But, all these players.
T.Y. was undrafted, right? T.Y.? Was he
T.Y.? I want to say T.Y. Hilton was undrafted.
Well, while
But
you look for that, FIU 0-2 against Alabama all time. So they actually had 2 games. One in 2006, one in 2009. 2006, both in Tuscaloosa. FIU lost 38-30, 38-3. I'm sorry, that would have been a very fun game if they had.
so T.Y. Hilton was a 3rd-round draft pick.
Wow, we're idiots.
The undrafted player that I'm thinking of, I want to say, and I'm going to quickly double check to make sure I get it wrong, or I don't get it wrong. It was wasn't Jonny either. Jonny was also a 3rd-round draft.
Jonny was also picked. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So
yikes, man. T.Y. Hilton did not have a very good game against Alabama. I'll tell you that much in 2009. Zero,
I mean,
0 receptions for 0 yards. So.
Oh, okay. It was Price. Price.
Oh,
was
I'm a liar.
Undrafted that I was thinking of. It was Devontae Price, undrafted, went to Indianapolis in 2022. But
he was hyped up. He was hyped up too entering the draft.
Was
as one of the better running backs. But all right, so I'm an idiot. I was looking at the rushing stats. Ty had 5 receptions for 40 yards. So if you care, but who cares?
Really not.
A very fun career. So.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk NFL draft. Obviously, that is still ways away, but I think this is the best time we could talk about, the 4 guys: Jalen Bracey, wide receiver, Jack Daly, defensive tackle, Donovan Manuel, linebacker, and Derek Daniel, safety. So those are the 4 guys that are and have declared for the NFL draft. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to get selected. Hopefully, we're wishing them the best. We're wishing them the best of luck. Hopefully, they do get selected. And I do think, I can't believe, I do think some of these guys will get selected. We could start with Jalen Bracey, Jake.
Yeah.
Certainly an interesting case. I will let you know right now the official height, the size and weight of Bracey. It is correct on the FIU website. So it is 5'10", 199. He spent a lot of time at the FCS level with Mississippi Gulf Coast. He put up some really good numbers over there. I believe he ended up having over 1,000 yards receiving, over 10 touchdowns, over 60 receptions with them. And then he comes to FIU, spends 2 seasons, doesn't see the same amount of action. He got a lot of action per se, but obviously when you have Tyrese Chambers in 2022 and then Chris Mitchell in 2023, and along with Dean Patterson, that combo, it's really hard to really get that something going there. But, Bracey, where he did stand out a lot was that his speed, his ability to play the slot, something that FIU really valued in him. And he was a good specialist. I mean, you look at what he did on the kick and punt returns at times, he was pretty good. And then on top of that, I mean, he got some reps in the backfield towards the end of the season against, I think it was Arkansas, and a little bit of the Western Kentucky game. So, I mean, if there's one thing, and I'll let you go into this a little bit after, but if there's one thing that NFL teams will look at Bracey is how his versatility. He can do a little bit of everything for you. Now, and you look at the situation, and this was one that I'm very high on. It's Braxton Berrios on the Dolphins. I know you're not very high on his special teams abilities, but he was a Pro Bowler for it. There's teams that will look into that and will say, even if it's as an undrafted free agent, Jalen Bracey gives you the opportunity to have a special teams guy, specialist in this case, and someone in the slot, and there at the time you can play some running back. So Bracey, I do think he brings a lot to the table for NFL teams. This is definitely one of those 6th, 7th round selections. Worst comes to worst, you're an undrafted free agent, you go to a practice squad, and you find yourself in a pretty good situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously, if you want to really look at stats specifically, then you would have to go to his time at Mississippi Gulf Coast, where he was a very fantastic player. But this guy has longevity, right? He played every game in 2023. He even played every game in 2022. And I believe his best game as a Panther would have been against UConn earlier in the season. He had 5 catches, 90 yards, a touchdown. He even had a rushing attempt as well. I mean, this is a guy that when he gets the opportunity, he has very solid hands. He's fast, right? He's a very fast wide receiver. He can absolutely I wouldn't say cook, but he can definitely outrun a lot of defensive backs in the backfield. There, he is obviously, he was in a very talented wide receiver room. Of course, all the attention goes to Chris Mitchell because he had a very fantastic season. But you can't count out what Bracey has done for this team every now and then. Some solid chunk plays here and there, like you mentioned that Western Kentucky game. He also had a very solid outing. And like I said, it's nice to have longevity for a wide receiver. Of course, we see a lot of wide receivers in the NFL unfortunately go down with injury, but that wasn't really the case for Bracey during his time at FIU. When he was called upon, he was there to do his work, right? And that is something that you do want to see from a wide receiver. And again, if you really want to look at clips of Bracey to see what he can bring to you, I think a good place to start is that UConn game, and it might be the best place to start for his FIU career with that game against UConn. His stats in 2022, don't leave a whole lot to be desired, but again, another very solid wide receiver group. Of course, he had Tyrese Chambers in there in 2022, and of course, this year it was Chris Mitchell. So, he was a serviceable receiver that whenever he was throwing the ball, he made the most of it, got some yards, and I just think he, as you mentioned, he is a very solid slot receiver. It might take him some time to get snaps in the NFL. He could have, of course, he could have a breakout, a preseason game with whoever he gets signed by, and then we'll see where he goes from here. But he's a good player. He's someone that we've spoken to before in practices and whatnot. He's hungry to work, and he's hungry to prove himself to any of the 32 NFL teams that want to take a chance at him.
And he's a great guy, and you meant he's a great guy on that as well. And you mentioned, this is a guy who maybe what works out for him is on the special team side of things. You look at, and obviously, these guys are absolute legends. Devin Hester, he's lived a very long time off of that.
I believe he's a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame this upcoming.
There you go. And I know
I totally think he deserves to be.
You go back to the Super. You wait, what?
Oh yeah, Devin Hester, he absolutely deserves to be.
Oh, okay. I thought you said he didn't deserve. I was like, yo.
No, if you want to think about the best to ever do a certain skill position in the NFL, the kick and punt returners don't get a whole lot of attention. I know Sanders was good at Deion Sanders was good at those back in the day, but like sort of modern day, what my eyes were able to see was Devin Hester, and it wasn't even close. You do that in a Super Bowl, that is ridiculous what he did in that Super Bowl.
You have Devin Hester. I know Jacoby Jones was pretty good at it too during his time with the Ravens. I'm missing out on a couple other names. Oof. Cordell Patterson's pretty good at it. That's a more recent comp too, if you really want to look at it. Braxton Berrios.
Okay, I mean,
was Wes Welker a good returner?
I can't say a whole lot.
That's a pretty good comp too. I would say if he was, because I mean, at least slot receiver wise, he was pretty good. So
I think for the longest time, Kenny Stills was actually a pretty solid returner.
Jarvis Landry.
He kind of dropped off in his last season, but for the first few seasons when he was with Miami, I thought he was a very good.
Juice Landry.
Yeah, of course, Jarvis Landry.
Especially at the punt return side of things, he was pretty damn good. So
yeah,
and I know this is one thing that you do mention, and we can talk about it a little bit. It's just the state of kickoffs and this type of stuff, because nowadays, and even with punt returns, you don't see it as much too anymore. You don't see guys actually going for the ball. You just see them fair catching it, which deplete the value of the kickoff. But at the end of the day, you got to think about it. It's kind of a, how do I say it? It's an iconic type of.
It's traditional, right? It's traditional.
Exactly.
The NFL is a league that absolutely revolves around tradition. But you see leagues like the XFL and the USFL. I know they just merged to the UFL. They both sort of had rule sets where all drives just straight up started at the 25. Obviously, you still had punt returns, but kickoffs to begin the game, to begin the second half, and right after scoring drive, you just immediately start at the 25. I think it saves time. I think it's obviously a lot safer. You don't risk injury in through kickoffs. But regardless, I don't think it's something that's leaving the NFL for a while. So you always want someone who's good at it, and maybe that's what Bracey can bring to an NFL squad.
And obviously, this is not a Miami Dolphins podcast, but that's where I tell you can't say Braxton Berrios is bad at it, because what he wanted the guy to do, run past the touchdowns, the end zone, and just catch the ball. I mean, you can't do much.
He's also the punt returner too, and maybe it's because we're all salty because of what we saw in that Buffalo game where Buffalo got a punt return touchdown that pretty much.
But yeah, again, I wouldn't say he's bad at it. I mean, obviously he was a Pro Bowler at one point for it, so you got to give him credit where credit's due. But anyways, if you had to predict, what do you think? What do you think Bracey, if he were to go in the draft, where do you think he goes, or do you think he ends up being an undrafted free agent?
Where he goes, it's going to be tough.
What round? What round? Not what team.
Okay, what team would be
what team? That's I don't know.
What round? I think he could be a 6th or 7th, if not undrafted. Obviously, every team wants good receiving talent to help out their quarterbacks, and obviously, like we mentioned, to help out their special teams. So, if there's a lot of teams in the NFL that really have a need for that, then I would say that there's a good chance he gets in either the late 6th or early 7th.
Okay, I would agree with you. So let's go to the next guy. This is certainly an interesting case, and this is a guy I'm actually pretty confident will get selected, in my opinion.
Yes.
Jack Daly.
Mm-hmm.
What he brings to a team, it's pretty good. I mean, and I'll circle back. I wrote an article on him in Sports Illustrated, and I'm going to go actually to look for it. Well, because, man, was Jack Daly a very good player at Bryant? So
Yeah, he was. That's exactly why FIU wanted him. They saw him when they took on Bryant last year to begin the season. Of course, his stats speak for himself with Bryant. No, he was an absolutely he was a fantastic player then. He was a very serviceable player with FIU, just like we talked about with Bracey, he played the whole season, right? That's very important for your defense to have players that can play all 12 games of football. Obviously, that goes up to 17 in the NFL, but you want longevity in that position almost as much as you want longevity in like the quarterback or the receivers or running backs. You need players on defense that you can rely on to be there. And when he was here at FIU, the stats don't say a whole lot, but he passes the eye test. He was very good at tackles, at stopping the run. Of course, he was assisted with the absolutely incredible linebacker group that FIU had with Peterson and Manuel. So yeah, man, he is a very similar story to Bracey, serviceable, and he was always there. So I don't know what else needs to be said about a resume to the NFL. Both those things are very important.
And on top of that, you look at just his size. So not funny enough. I mean, he earned it, and he is the only FIU player participating in the Hula Bowl, which is, I believe, one of the. So there's just obviously the Reese Senior Bowl, which is the best of the best, and then I believe right after that it's the Hula Bowl. So he is participating in that. We'll talk about Donovan Manuel in a bit, who's also participating in a separate.
We had seen people from the Hula Bowl at a few FIU games this season, right? Like some members showed up.
Exactly, yeah, and they're there to watch. At the time, it was Chris Mitchell, obviously, but aside from that, Jack Daly, Hula Bowl invite, and he, I thank him because he did give me his official size and weight, or his highs, which is 6'5", 315 pounds. So that is huge. I mean, Jake. And one of the big things entering 2023 was Jack Daly with FIU. You think about the 3-4 scheme that they're running. That was the second year this past season.
Yeah.
Daly fits in perfect because he's that zero technique nose guard type player that's right in the middle, lining up with the center. And he did it so well that FIU brought in another player to do it as well, and Cole Gustafson, who from the JUCO level. But looking at Jack Daly in his 4 years with Bryant, he had 104 total tackles, 6 sacks, 23 tackles for loss. I mean, you can't ask for anything better from Daly in terms of what he did. And with FIU, obviously, I think you mentioned it, stats don't speak for themselves, but he was pretty good. 25 total tackles. He had 1.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. It was just one season of action, but I do wonder, what if Daly had been with FIU from the beginning? Maybe he could have gone to the Power 5 level, but he has the size of weight to be a disruption in the middle of your defensive line. You could put him on one-on-one situations, especially with, I believe, I would say guards and centers or tackles. I'm sorry, but it's definitely something that you got to mention.
Yeah. If you want to look at the games where he made the biggest impact for FIU, it could be both the Sam Houston game where he got his only sack of the season. He also had like five total tackles against Jacksonville State. So some very good stuff there. Prior to the season, he was a preseason All-Conference USA third team. So he had some recognition going into this year. But his time with Brian, of course, was absolutely insane. He was an all Northeastern Conference first team selection, back-to-back seasons, 2021 or 2020 and 2021. He was he was very dominant then, and again, that's the reason why FIU took a chance with him.
In 2020, 2021, and 2022, and then he went to the Phil Steele preseason All-Conference USA third team in 2023. So he definitely has the accolades to speak for his own name. And I mean, look at the FCS level, and sorry to cut you off a little bit, but look at Joe Flacco, what he's doing. I mean, this guy,
January Joe's a menace, bro.
Yeah, I mean, look at Delaware coming soon to Conference USA. Speaking of,
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about the schedule soon. But yeah, I mean, that FCS level. There's a lot of guys who come in and have success from the FCS level. Now, I think Daly could be the next player to really have a lot of success from the FCS level,
Mhm.
and obviously from FIU. But so we'll see. I mean, this is he brings what the size and he's not maybe he's not the fastest guy. We'll see what that stuff looks like once. I don't know if he'll go to the combine or not, but you would assume one of those guys goes to the combine. Maybe Donovan Manuel, which we'll get into later. That's certainly, I wouldn't say a lock, but we'll get into it. So yeah.
I'll say as far as what round he's getting drafted, I'll say I think it's a similar instance to Bracy. I think he'll go late 6th to early 7th. I mean, obviously, he passes the eye test just like Bracy. The numbers don't speak for themselves for his time at FIU, so you would have to watch tape from a few years ago. And of course, sometimes that raises questions and concerns from NFL scouts. We've talked to them before at FIU games, but yeah, he's another player that absolutely deserves to have a chance against some other defensive lineman. Just like imagine him learning from like Aaron Donald over in Los Angeles. Like if he gets selected by the Rams, he can learn so much from a player like Aaron Donald. It would be very interesting to see how his game develops in the next level.
I'm actually higher on Daly than you think in this draft. I'm not going to say he's going to be a first round or second round guy, but man, fourth round ish, maybe fifth. Maybe I'm
so
stretching.
Like late 4th, early 5th is your call.
Yeah, but definitely 6 and 7 I think are locks for him to go. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Size in the NFL is so important, and that's what Daly brings. And I'm not saying that it's because he only size, because he's a very talented player. He's a very strong player as well. So I mean, he has the profile, the profile of an NFL player. He's a big boy.
Without a doubt.
So that's Daly. And next player we'll get into. What do you want to do?
Let's save who we think is going to be the highest for last. Let's start with obviously no disrespect to Deverick Daniel, who I think we're going to get about right now, but I think the player that takes up most of the limelight because of what he did for FIU is Donovan Manuel. So we'll save him to the end. Talk a bit about Deverick Daniel, man. What can we not say about this guy? 5'10", 210 pounds. He is a Florida guy from Gainesville. He absolutely had some fantastic games this season as FIU starting defensive back. He started in that Louisiana Tech game. Ironically, that may have been one of his best games as a Panther. Was that or not Louisiana Tech game in 2022? I meant 2023. But yeah, man, he's just another very reliable defensive back that FIU had, especially early on in the season. He was really good, Kevin. He had some absolutely amazing games. His games against both Maine and North Texas were some of his best, and he even recorded a couple of sacks this season, I believe against both UConn and New Mexico State. So, yeah, man, he's another very solid player. Of course, plays at the safety position. He had his only interception of the season against Louisiana Tech. I would absolutely say to the scouts, look at that Louisiana Tech game and see what Deverick Daniel did. That was Deverick at his best this season, but granted, he had 11 tackles against Maine, 10 against Arkansas, against that very good Arkansas offense that they had in that game. And again, this is a player we've talked to. He's done post game interviews at the FIU stadium. And
it was the main game he did the post game.
Yeah. So he passes the eye test. That's very important for these NFL scouts, Kevin.
Yeah. Deverick Daniel, and one thing that really stands out, and you could see the sacks, and he was third on Panthers in total tackles this season. Obviously, Donovan Manuel with 121 total tackles, Reggie Peterson with 124, not 100, 104 total tackles. Then you have Deverick with 78. So this is a guy who's a high pressure safety. He's going to play up there a lot for the most part. They're going to bring him into pressure the quarterback. Now, obviously, he had that pick against Louisiana Tech, which was playing back obviously in coverage, but this is certainly a fun case in terms of the G5 level. Mm-hmm. Now, I think he did rank amongst like the top 20, top 25, 30-ish Conference USA players in terms of total tackles. So he definitely has that, and I believe 2 or 3 interceptions on the season.
Yeah,
he had 1 interception. So it was that 1 interception against Louisiana Tech. So yeah, certainly a fun player. Now, will he get drafted? He's a great guy, but I don't think he can.
I don't know.
Say seventh
I
round.
believe he is also a JUCO product as well, or if not JUCO, FCS. He came from Catalba. Please excuse my probably incorrect pronunciation. It's a college in North Carolina. But again, another player that FIU found potential talent in and went for him, and he turned out to be a very important player on a FIU defense that, of course, sometimes, especially towards the conference stretch of the season, struggled with the deep balls, with checkdowns, with medium passes, whatever you name it. They struggled at times, but granted, he again played a whole college football season. He was in every game in 2023, and that's very important when you rack up experience like that, going up against some of the very talented wide receivers that Conference USA has. Of course, not to mention he took on an SEC opponent in Arkansas and walked away with double-digit total tackles, which is very impressive, you know?
Yeah. And also, we haven't mentioned it, but there's obviously the XFL, I want to say is out the name, or USFL.
So both teams merged, and it's now known as the UFL, the United Football League. However, both leagues are now going to be like essentially conferences. You're going to have the XFL conference and the USFL conference, each with 4 teams. But it's been merged, and it's the UFL.
Well, there you go. That's still a great opportunity for players. It's a very high level league as well. So
no, absolutely.
I mean, if it's not the NFL, you have the UFL, and you can build your stock through there.
Yeah.
So,
look what Alex Magoo did. Look what Alex Magoo did. FIU legend turned Birmingham Stallions legend. He led the Stallions to 2 USFL championships, and now he's the backup to Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, who were in the postseason. So
exactly,
very cool story there.
And I would say I think all of these guys honestly are locks for that UFL.
Absolutely.
If you ask me. So yeah, let's get best for last. No offense to the other guys, but Donovan Manuel made history for FIU. I'm gonna just type in his name. Talk to us a little bit about Donovan Manuel, Jake.
Donovan Manuel was the backbone of the FIU defense from the very freaking start of the season. He was an absolute force in the backfield and met a lot of running backs and quarterbacks during his time at FIU. Some of his best games were against Louisiana Tech and Maine, where he recorded 15 and 14 total tackles, respectively. But what a lot of people remember from Donovan Manuel's time at FIU is his forced fumbles and how he was so damn good at that, to the point that he broke the school record with 5 total. So, my goodness, man, there's only so much we can say about Donovan Manuel before it starts to get repetitive on how important he was to this team. And out of all the players who played all 12 games this season for FIU on defense, he made the most out of every situation. I'd say his worst game of the season may have come against Sam Houston State, and he still got 7 tackles, including 4 solo. So he's a monster, man. He is a monster. We've talked to him. He is a good dude. He won a bunch of he was on the preseason watch list. First team, I believe, 2 different first team preseason
Conference USA second team this past season as well.
Yeah. By the way, he should have been first team. I'm just saying, should have been first team. But again, the numbers. This is the one thing where he passes both the eye test and the numbers test. He did everything for this defense, and if FIU did not have a player like Donovan Manuel on defense, they would have struggled to win even one game this season. He was that big of an impact for FIU's defense.
Donovan Manuel, 3rd amongst Conference USA in tackles. He was 2nd in tackles for loss. He was 1st in forced fumbles. And I'm kind of trying to quickly.
And again, he was a product of the SCS level originally.
He spent 4 years there too.
Yeah, East Tennessee State. He put a lot of work in there, and then he was so great with East Tennessee State. But the crazy thing is, he got to FIU and got even better stat wise. He got even better. So I'm just gonna say it right now. I think Donovan Manuel deserves to be, I'd say a third round pick, maybe 4th, but if not third, I think second is a bit of a stretch. But
super, yeah.
I would say early to mid third round.
Now, I think a good comparison for now, I'm gonna have to look back and see if he played his whole career with him. Tyrese Knight for UTEP.
Okay.
That would be the ideal comparison I'm looking at here, and he's also entering the draft. So yeah, he spent his whole career at UTEP. That's the only difference here, and he totaled 390 total tackles, 175 assists, 215 solo. He had 8.5 sacks, 2 interceptions. So I think definitely this is, Tyrese Knight is at the top of the conference in almost every statistical category on defense when it comes to linebackers. And this is definitely a first or second round pick. So that's kind of where I'm looking at it. And I know there's a Middle Tennessee linebacker after. So yeah.
Donovan Manuel, he was that guy. He was him, and he broke an all-time FIU record that I don't know if we're going to see get broken again for years, if not decades. Man, he did something that is very hard. 5 forced fumbles in a single season. I believe after the Louisiana Tech and Maine game, he was one of, if not the leading tackler in all of FBS. Man, he had an absolutely phenomenal start to this season, and it only got better as the season progressed for his total statistics. Granted, okay, he was not a sack machine. That was not his responsibility. His responsibility was to stop the run and swat the ball out of a running back's hands. And man, he did that really good. He was absolutely phenomenal at that. FIU sometimes had a very questionable rushing defense, but one player that you could rely on if he got to get to the running back was Donovan Manuel. He might go down as an all-time great as far as the linebacker position for the FIU Panthers. We'll see.
I mean, who else? Maybe Reggie outdoes him, but that would be the only one I could think of at the moment. But Jake, I think it's time to shine.
It's time to shine with an FIU news, an FIU news break, Paws Up podcast news break, your source for all things FIU athletics and just FIU in general. So let's start off with FIU football, since we're on the topic. They recently announced a couple of future non-conference opponents. First off, the Panthers will take on the Monmouth Hawks this upcoming season on Saturday, September 21st. To close out the non-conference schedule. Yes, that game is in Miami. Monmouth is an FCS school hailing from the Coastal Athletic Association. I believe at one point they were in the Ohio Valley Conference, which is where Jacksonville State was before they moved up to the Conference USA. This is going to be the first ever meeting between both FIU and Monmouth. So that'll close out the non-conference schedule, which will feature Indiana, Central Michigan, and Florida Atlantic. Now, moving on to a bit to the more distant future, FIU also announced that they will be taking on the Buffalo Bulls of the MAC. We're going to get some more MACtion between FIU and Buffalo. They're going to take them on twice. It's a home and home series. The first meeting will be here in 2026, and the next will be in Amherst, New York, which I believe is outskirts of Buffalo. In 2027. And just like Monmouth, both FIU and Buffalo have never met in the gridiron. So it'll be interesting to see. I know we're all reeling from the Miami versus Buffalo matchup in the pros. We'll see if this nets some better results in the collegiate level. So
first time, not to interrupt your news break, but first time FIU will have back-to-back seasons of taking on a MAC conference since 2011-2012. That was back-to-back seasons taking on the Akron Zips. So I don't know who won or not, but FIU also is 5-4 against the MAC conference all time.
Not to mention 2 wins against Toledo in both of their bowl games that they've won. So
and they take on Michigan, and they take on Central Michigan in 2024.
Right. So we love the MAC. We're college football fans. We love some good MACtion. What can we say? So next up is swimming and diving, where a pair of Panthers were named to the American Athletic Conference swimmer and diver of the week list. Starting off is Christy Chi. She was absolutely amazing in the FIU Sprint invite last Wednesday. She won an absolutely insane amount of awards that day. I believe she racked up 3 first place finishes. I believe she also took home an additional third place finish. That invite was absolutely dominated by FIU, and it was absolutely amazing to see her. Now, on top of that, you have Paige Burrell for being the diver of the week. Burrell also took home to first place placements in that exact same invite. So again, congratulations to both Panthers for absolutely putting in the work there on that FIU sprint team. And now I got Jonathan Mayer happy talking about swimming a little bit. So on the topic of awards, Conference USA announced the winners of the Fall Spirit of Service Awards, which is meant for student athletes with, quote, significant community service endeavors, good academic standing, and participation in their sport, end quote. For FIU, it was Deborah Bien Aime of women's soccer, a two-time recipient of this award who is majoring in biological sciences with a minor in psychology. She serves on the Student Athletic Leadership Council, where she held several health and safety initiatives, including sun safety advisories in partnership with the new sunscreen sponsor. She is also on the Dean's List and appeared in 14 games this past season, which, of course, we all know was an amazing season for FIU women's soccer. So, of course, congrats to Deborah. And that was your look at Newsbreak. So, Kevin, I guess this is the moment where we talk a bit about men's basketball and what we saw against the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. It was the first conference matchup of the season for FIU, and it, of course, did not go out as intended for the Panthers. They fell by a score of 70-63. It was actually didn't really even feel like a close game in the first half, but FIU, to their credit, came back swinging in the second half, kept the game close, but ultimately the Gamecocks pulled away. It was a tough game to lose because they really had a chance to win it there late in the end.
Yeah, and I mean, Kiki Tandy, man. I mean, he may be the best player in Conference USA right now.
You might not be lying.
He absolutely dominated FIU. It was a one-man wrecking crew for him. That Jack State team is pretty good. They shoot the lights out of the ball, and we'll preview a little bit about New Mexico State because FIU.
Sorry, did you say they shut the lights out of the ball?
Lights out! Lights out!
Oh, good job. I'll give you that one.
Thanks. I know you weren't expecting that because the way you scooted out of it.
It's been a while since we used the lights out, Clive. I'll say that.
While. You have to reserve it for worthy moments, right? And I was ready for that. Kevin. But no, what you were saying was absolutely true. Kiki Tandy, he was amazing. He from beyond the arc, he was very deadly. And funnily enough, the game, I wouldn't want to say the game felt like it was over in the first half. It was close for a while. Jacksonville State pulled away. They led by 40-28 in the first half. But you want to talk about FIU in the second half? They did play some of their best basketball all season. In the second half of that game, unfortunately, it was not enough. You want to talk about Okeke, however you say it. What did I just see? See,
bro?
What is this, Jonathan Mayer?
Just gotta save it in here. I was just
from what you told me, he is celebrating his dad's birthday today. So of course, we want to wish Jonny a very happy Wednesday. I know we're all going to be at the bank tomorrow to see FIU take on New Mexico State. That's going to be fun. But they got some things to work on following that Jacksonville State game. Granted, Javante Hawkins himself had another very nice game. 15 points off the. No, he wasn't off the bench, but he did go 6-14 from the field. Not to mention Jaden Brewer had another fantastic game. Arturo Dean, 4 steals, but 4 steals is like average for Arturo Dean. Just how good he is at that stat line.
He got shut down, man. I mean, look at the first.
He got shut down, but he still made the most of it, right?
That's the thing too, and this is one thing I will mention. And teams have started to take it. I've started to notice. Man, teams are targeting Arturo Dean big time. When these teams are game planning against FIU, their focus is going to be Arturo Dean, and that's where we have to see other guys step up. Javante Hawkins, he stepped up in a big way for FIU. You also look at it with Deshaun Giddens. You need him to step up. You need Jaden Lipscomb to stand. I mean, Arturo Dean could do so much for this FIU team. He takes pride in his defense, and that's not going to change. But if teams are going to go after him on the offensive side, and they're going to game plan, most of their game plan goes towards someone like Dean, this FIU team, no offense, becomes kind of a non-factor on offense. And with such a high pace that's led by Dean, you need to step up, and it'll be interesting because there's some guy. I'll just say it on here. Abar not playing tomorrow against New Mexico State. I won't mention why, but it is injury related. He most likely will not practice tomorrow either. I mean, it would be big time if he does play, but very unlikely. So that means you have to see someone like Hawkins step in there big time, man. And this is why I did it. Jonathan Mayer, baby.
Johnny, I
didn't hear anything.
You're mute. Oh,
okay,
no.
we hear you. Johnny, I thought you
There
didn't
we go.
exist for the day.
Surprise, surprise.
Johnny wanted to talk baseball, man.
Yeah,
I thought you
I heard
guys
you're
went
talking
to.
baseball soon.
I thought you guys went to Joe Stonecraft's in Miami to celebrate your dad's birthday.
No, I went to Islas Canarias.
It was good, right?
Islas Canarias.
It was good, right?
How do you say it? Islas Canarias.
Islas Canarias.
Yes,
it was good, though, right?
Great, best croquetas in Miami.
Best croquetas, bro. They were
not going to argue
really
that.
good.
Not going to argue that. Welcome, Johnny. We were talking about before you joined. We spent like almost 30 something minutes talking about the FIU football players who had declared for the NFL draft. So I know you were at least listening before you joined. So what are your thoughts? What are your takeaways? Give us all the info, Johnny.
I say best of luck to all those guys. I think all those guys had productive seasons here at FIU, specifically this year. I think Jack Daly made an immediate impact. Derek Daniel, he had some good games, and Jalen Bracey, who always has the speed. You never know what the future holds for them. Love seeing them get drafted or have some opportunities, but I think a lot of those guys have proven their case. They're hard workers, and hopefully they get opportunities because you just need one shot. So, yeah.
Oh. I was going to save that to the end, Kevin, but
no one saw it. No one saw it.
No one saw it, but you know what? Now's a good time. We have some more breaking news. I didn't add this to Newsbreak, but consider this an extension to Newsbreak. One of our very own is turning 1 year older tomorrow. That is Kevin Barral.
I do have some.
FIU. He's turning what? The 21?
19.
Oh, 19 years old tomorrow.
You got time.
So if you guys want to wish Kevin a happy birthday tomorrow at the bank, when FIU takes on New Mexico State at 7 p.m., I mean, by all means.
And before we do get into baseball, because we'll quickly preview New Mexico State, but this is another extension to Newsbreak. I have 2 extensions to Newsbreak.
Wow.
First one, big breaking news. A crystal ball selection has been put in for 5-star recruit George McIntyre. He was on the final list for FIU, but the crystal ball goes to Tennessee. So expect him to commit there. Usually these crystal ball predictions are pretty accurate. So, John, I know you can't talk too much about it, but he is Coach Mac's nephew. So wishing him all the best. He was here at FIU on Device Night. He's a big quarterback, big sling. He's big. He's tall.
He's big. Yeah, that's what we need to know.
He's long. Yeah. I think that's the best way to put it. Johnny, he was also for basketball, right?
Yeah, he was offered to play basketball here too. So I mean, this is the only school in the country where he's been offered to play 2 sports. So
you can leave it at that. You can't say too much more on him. And the other one is Keyshawn Frett, FIU Baseball. He will be calling the game tomorrow with Carlton Gillespie.
Funny enough, Carlton is in my class this semester, so we were hanging out today. We were talking about it. Yeah. Gave me all the tips about Keyshawn and the strategies of how to call a game with him, and I'm excited to listen. I'm making sure I'll promote that on the FIU Baseball account, making sure it gets the love and student athletes getting opportunities in the real world. So.
I can attest to how good that class is with AJ Ricketts. We were, me and Johnny, we were,
I'm going to take the class.
We were Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth talking, when we were on the mic for basketball. And
that was
John,
great.
You said you're doing the class in the fall, correct?
I will.
I'm doing. I'll do it too because
so we have Johnny and Kevin. Johnny, I just realized I have to add your face to the thumbnails now after this episode.
No, don't worry about it. I don't worry about it. It's all good.
All right, so let's quickly preview this. FIU versus New Mexico State. This is the first conference game at home for the Panthers.
Yeah.
Big night, as I mentioned. Panther Power is going to be there. They're doing the whole thing. Pretty cool stuff. Maybe
you said Chick-fil-A, right? They're going to have Chick-fil-A.
I'm not passing up on that at all. But unfortunately, the Panthers are not favored. They're actually 6.5 underdogs in this game. And as we look at New Mexico State, this is a team they should technically beat. They rank towards the bottom of Conference USA in most stats. They're currently 7-9. They have not won a road game yet. They're 0-7 on the road. So that is pretty concerning on that end. They're not very good at the rebound department, but the Panthers also rank last. So, Jake, what do you like about New Mexico State? They also don't have big-time scorers like we saw with Jack State.
I like their, I should say, inability to turn the ball over. They are a very good team when it comes to ball security. That, of course, is going to be a big test for this FIU team, who sort of prides themselves in turnovers and steals against their opponents. So it's going to be interesting to see how that sort of plays in. But granted, they fourth in field in 3-point percentage. They are a very good team from the backcourt. They are snipers, if you will. And unfortunately, that was something that FIU struggled against Jacksonville State. They only went 3 for 17 from 3 against the Gamecocks, while Jacksonville State made 7 3-pointers. All of them came from Tandy. So it's New Mexico State could absolutely just light the field, get a bunch of points very quickly with how good they are from the 3-point line. But if FIU can sort of make this team struggle with, of course, Arturo Dean having his way with steals, and of course, stopping with the self-inflicted turnovers, the self-inflicted wounds that this FIU team sometimes sort of forces themselves, man. It was very frustrating because if those things didn't happen early on in that game against Jacksonville State, it would have been even closer coming out of halftime, and then who knows how that game would have ended down the stretch if that was the case. But at the end of the day, Jacksonville State could not miss their shots at the end of that game, and FIU was, fortunately, they were kind of hopeless to stop it. But they were in that game. As a matter of fact, they had a relatively solid chance to win it. You just need these playmakers to step in. We had Kevin, you mentioned A-Bar not going to be in it. That's going to be a tough hit to FIU size wise, and how they want to defend shots. So maybe you'll see more minutes from Pinckney. You'll see some more from Pitar in his place. But it's going to be a tough task against a very, very good shooting team.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, think about it. OKK, it's OKK o'clock. Our good buddy Carlton Gillespie gave me that one, so I'm not against using that.
I like it. I like it.
Hey, he was the positive podcast player of the game last game against Jack State. So I believe it was 12 points in 15 minutes. Yeah. He put FIU back in that one as they were down by 18. So yeah, I'm gonna say FIU is gonna win this game. I would not say by a big margin. I think it'll be pretty close. But I do think FIU gets this one, and they keep their conference hopes alive. And it's something I've really wanted to hammer down. They got to get off to a really good start in the conference to stay afloat and have the best possible spot in the tournament. Johnny, I know you say FIU wins. Jake, are you going to be the? Are you going to be my birthday?
Actually, no.
All right, Johnny? What's your score?
Wait. What, Johnny?
I want to give my pick.
Go for it.
FIU's going to win, bounce back 82-74.
Okay. Who's the
strangely enough, it's weird. I kind of agree with Johnny. I think my score is going to be relatively the same. I think both teams are going to score a little bit less because both of these teams' defenses sort of make these games against them rather low scoring. That was kind of the case against Jacksonville State in the first half until it wasn't. But this is such an important win for FIU, right? They are struggling. They are on their heels, begging for a win. Meanwhile, you have a team like New Mexico State. They're 7-9, right? But they began their conference season with a win against UTEP, so they already have a win against a conference opponent. I'm going to say FIU wins very close. I'm talking maybe a 3 or 4 point difference. I'll give a final score of like 78-75. Something very close. It might come down to the last shot. Either FIU makes it to win or New Mexico doesn't make it to lose. But every game after this for FIU is a must-win game if they really want to get back into this and be competitive in the Conference USA tournament down the line. Of course, that's still ways away, but actually not really. It really isn't ways away. We're getting relatively close to it. So it's a big win for FIU. They're going to have to figure it out, but I want to have faith in this team and believe that they will. So we shall see.
We have a little upset today in college basketball. UCF beat Kansas.
Yeah.
So, wow. UCF is real.
I saw Louisville beat Miami tonight, too.
Ooh.
Is that right? At the Watsco Center, nonetheless. They're really good at the Watsco Center. I thought the big one was, I believe it was, who beat Purdue? Who beat Purdue yesterday, the number 1 team of the country? I want to say it was
Purdue lost, right? I think it was Rutgers.
I want to say Nebraska, but let me double check this real quick.
While you check, I'm going to give off my prediction. I do think FIU wins.
Nebraska. It was Nebraska.
Okay, if there's one thing that stands out about this FIU team, it's the speed. They're one of the fastest teams in I would even argue to say in college basketball, they're such a very fast team. I mean, Arturo Dean, Deshaun getting very fast players. They run such a high tempo offense. I think that's going to really get New Mexico State kind of slowing down a little bit. Not a very good rebounding team either on both aspects, offense and defense. FIU is actually one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the conference. So that certainly stands out. I'll say FIU wins. I'll just say they win. And unlike you guys, I was going to say a very close game, but I'm going to go 85-78. It's still certain. It's still pretty close.
Still pretty close.
Pretty
Either
close,
way,
but I
getting
do think
points,
FIU
right? You're
slips it
getting
away.
points.
What's up?
Yeah, either way, betting wise, you're getting points in this game because FIU is a home dog, which is, it's crazy. But
That's good. That's good too. I would bet FIU for my bettors out there. But anyways, real quick, Jake, MVP of the game. Just say the name. You don't have to say why.
Okay. I'm gonna say Dean. I know it's a cop out, but Dean's ability to create steals is going to be so important against a team that otherwise has amazing ball security. So if they want to win, they got to get turnovers against this team, and then Dean's going to be the key to that.
I'm gonna go with...
Sorry, I actually did explain. I apologize. You
It's
said
fine.
to say the name.
I don't care. We don't have a time limit on this. We're live, so who cares?
We're live, so we're good. We're good.
Yeah. Oof. I'm gonna go Jaden Lipscomb. I think, man, he is in for another big game. I will say over 20 points. He will not miss a 3-pointer. Worst case, he'll miss one, but that's my MVP. Jonny, go for it.
I would say
It's okay, Jonny. Just tell
sorry,
us.
I'm getting hit up by Lucas, who's at New Mexico State. Las Cruces. I'm gonna say FIU. I'm gonna say Arturo Dean is gonna have a nice game. I think he'll have double digits, and I think he'll have double.
Alrighty. Baseball time, baby. This is what we're here for.
Oh, man.
Want to give a quick shout out to women's basketball.
Yes.
Right, they're having an amazing season, 10-5 right now.
Actually, you know what? Let's start. Yeah, we need.
Jonny, I'm gonna give you a suggestion. Put your computer on do not disturb.
Hold up. This is the best start since the 2011-2012 season for women's basketball through 15 games. They're playing some great basketball, and they have some good games coming up. So give props to them.
Of course, they've won 4 straight games, and they beat Jacksonville State. Granted, it was at home, but they've won their first Conference USA game of the season. They're going to take on New Mexico State in Las Cruces tomorrow at 8 p.m., and then that'll be sort of a little 2-game road trip. They'll head to UTEP afterwards on Saturday. Then their next home game will be against the Liberty Flames on Thursday.
Ooh, FIU goes to Liberty then. Men's basketball goes to Liberty.
Yeah. They got to head to – I mean, both teams are going to have to head to their conference opponents and then host them. Both.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I'm thinking about football terms here. But anyways, I was going to mention something and I forgot.
Well, we were about to start talking about baseball. I want to say the reaction of all of you guys watching – to Kevin's mega preview for the roster was absolutely insane.
Let me see how much reviews we're at right now.
It was insane. So many players loved it. Granted, I mean, I don't want to leak anything, but I think Kevin himself had some assistance from the baseball team, some players in general to get this article made, and it turned out absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen it yet, it mentions all the players that FIU has both lost and gained for this upcoming season. Talk about some quotes from Rich Whitten and a breakdown of every player from every position and who Kevin himself believes will be the starters heading into their first game of the season against who at the beginning of the season against
Long Island,
right? The Long Island Sharks. Kevin breaks it down almost down to a T about who you need to know, and of course. We've had the pleasure of speaking to a bunch of players already, such as of course Brylan West and who else am I thinking of?
We've spoken to Guida before.
Oh yeah, Guida. We've spoken to.
We spoke to Alex Sanchez. Shout out to him. He signed with the affiliate league, the Pioneer League, an MLB affiliate league. So shout out to him. Wrote a little bit.
Shout out him. Of course, we've also spoken with Rich Whitten, of course. Pretty important. Not to mention you yourself spoke with Logan Rundy as well. So, man, it was a great article, and I guess that's what we're going to talk about here. Just some of your thoughts about the players you yourself had mentioned, and some of the biggest players that you think will make an impact on both offense and defense for this FIU team.
Yeah, sucks that we're at the 54-minute mark, but it kind of feels like we're going to start a
we'll have a baseball-centric pod.
Look. We can mess around with the rules. Spoiler alert, but when the episodes are not live, they have to be under an hour, right? But this is a live stream, baby. This can go over an hour, and I know I don't know if Jonny has the willpower to go on after an hour, but I'm down for it. I think
Hey
Kevin's
man, Johnny
down
just
for it.
got here. He's still at the 0-minute marker.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm just saying though, we should have a baseball centric.
Good, and we will. We definitely will.
Oh
And
yeah, when we get close to the
something we
season,
could do
absolutely.
here, and something we could do here, we could do two. Actually, never mind. This is more off the camera stuff, but we could cut this one and start a new one if you guys really wanted to. But we can also clip this one into a video if we really want to go deep into the baseball team and make it clip as a separate stream or whatever. But we could. I would like to go as in depth as we can now since we're already all here, and especially
Yeah,
since
absolutely. This can be one of those longer episodes we don't get every now and then. We don't get a whole lot of super.
We still have a decent amount of viewers on Twitter. So
can you still believe we talked with Arturo Dean for like 70 minutes, Jonny? That was awesome.
You just spoke to Arturo Dean for over an hour.
Yes, it was super sick.
Albeit some technical difficulties, but it was
that Arturo's.
Yeah.
All right. So
FIU Wi-Fi, right, Jonny?
So I'm gonna put Jonny here just for now because this is baseball. Sorry, Jake.
Oh yeah, thank you. I literally have a bunch of Marlins bobbleheads right there, guys.
It's fine.
And I know you really can't see it, but this Marlins poster right here is from the inaugural season. It is super sick.
All right. So the first thing we're going to do is just read off names who left the program or draft, transfer portal. So this is a pretty long list, so bear with me. Alex Sanchez, Ruben Carpio, Angel Tiburcio, Brian Pazos, Steven Ondina, Henry Wallen, Mikey Rosario, Mario Fernandez, Craig Paladar, Christian Santana, Marcus O'Malley, Brian Lariga, Dante Girardi, Robert Sotolongo, Mario Zabala, Tim Miku, Cesar Franco, Evan Chenier, CJ McKennett, and Marcus Sevillano. I think I said that right. Oh, why am I? All right.
No, my bad. That was a misclick.
That is a very long list. Jonny, I did this with Jonny, so just to confirm, this was all the guys. So I guess we could start with this general question. Out of those guys that I mentioned, and Jake, I would assume we could look, share the screen for the article. Just so everyone's on the same page here.
Do you have your article on like another screen that you want to?
Yeah, we're gonna do that right now.
Okay, yeah. I was looking at it as well.
And we could remove that. All right. Jonny and Jake, I'll go to both of you. I'm pretty sure out of these names, now, albeit a lot of them graduated, so there's not much you can do about them. But the ones that still had eligibility, who are you most surprised that they actually left the program, and who are you actually expecting more out of? Now, I'm going to start, and I'll go with Marcus O'Malley. When he came in here, I believe he was one of the on the freshman, all freshman team with VCU. He came along with Rich Witten from that transition. He was one of the guys that Rich Witten brought along to FIU. I actually thought he was going to play a lot more, but a big issue with O'Malley was the defensive struggles, and they started playing him in the outfield. So there wasn't much he could do there. And I mean, when you have guys like Ruben Carpio who started to step up, Mikey Rosario started to play a lot more, you kind of had your outfield. I feel like O'Malley really couldn't find a spot. And on top of that, I mean, we'll talk about him soon. Brian Lariga definitely started to step up for FIU. So that's where I'm looking at it. Jonny, who's your guy?
I mean, it's tough.
Biggest loss from the portal.
I would say obviously biggest loss. I think you look at it, I think, Alex Sanchez was, just because, the production he brought last year and the senior leadership he had was a huge asset to the team. Had a great year last year, first team all conference. That's someone you want to have. And obviously Mike Rosario, who, coming over from Miami, really was better and beyond when it came to FIU. I think those two stood out to me on the batting side. Obviously pitching side, Brian Pazos coming off, he had some, I think he in 2022 had some injuries. He came into 2023, really was able to work back and, was really, really solid. But yeah, I think those are the three guys that I thought, were losses that, happened. But, but you look at it, it's a long list of guys, but you look at the guys that are coming in, and it kind of gives you a little more, of excitement, because there's a lot of potential when you look at the roster and the additions that Coach Witten brought into year two for his program.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, the cheap answer is to say, Alex Sanchez, because he was the face of FIU baseball. Let's keep it real. He was the slugger that we've come to know. And of course, he was on the podcast. Maybe there's a little bit of bias there as well. But aside from that, of course, you had players that we've known for a very, very long time over the years, like Sotolongo, Girardi, and Zabala, just So, of course, a lot of infielders there as well as just sort of players you got to know for a while who were very reliable players, serviceable, played a lot of games over like the span of 2 or even 3 years. So those are the kind of players that it's going to be tough to replace because you're very familiar with what they've done for your team for years now. But of course, you look at the players lost here, you see here, but the players added is very impressive, and you have pretty much a player or two for every single position that you need to know. So yeah, man.
Mute the laptop, Johnny.
Mute the
Mute it.
laptop, Johnny.
Do not disturb. All right, continue.
I'll
Jake.
say that tandem of Sotolongo, Girardi, and Zabala, just because they're players that we've known for a very long
Man,
time.
Zabala, dude, I thought he could be. It's unfortunate how things played out with him. He was really he was pitching, I believe, he was hitting 95. He was a two-way guy, but yeah. All right, let's go into the guys they added. This is a very long list. Look at that.
Shout out Alex Sanchez, by the way, for that article that was on the other side of that was on the right side of the screen.
Bear with me, folks. This is even longer than the last one. All right, players added. Outfielder Jeff LaCorey, outfielder Keyshawn Frett, outfielder Austin Deering, shortstop Alex Ulloa, first baseman Brylan West, catcher Nelson Rivera, catcher Jacob McKenzie, infielder Chase Engelhard, infielder Andre Fernandez, infielder Samuel Fisher, infielder Trayson Cameron. I believe he's also a pitcher, so he's a two-way guy. Pitcher Jaden Bishop, pitcher Tristan Dietrich, pitcher Ryan Ryerson, outfielder Jaquan Smith, outfielder Hector Candelas, outfielder Armando Becerra, outfielder Jamel Vera, pitcher Bryce Green, pitcher Cameron Kleins. The rest are pitchers. Marlon Takovich, Andrew Alfonso, Logan Rundy, Evan Alwan, and Justin Paws. We could probably just knock down the top of the list here. I mean, Jeff LaCorey, Keyshawn Frett, Austin Deering, Alex Ulloa, and Brylan West. Those are the big ticket players that FIU acquired via the transfer portal and JUCO. Johnny, let's talk a little bit about Jeff LaCorey, man. This is the big ticket transfer on FIU. Outfielder, plays all 3 spots, a little bit of infield as well at first, but we projected him as a right fielder. Now, these projections, I won a lot. Shout out to D1 Baseball. I spoke about them a little bit, but through this, that was the inspiration to the article. But in terms of projections, I went off of my personal thoughts. I spoke to a couple people around the team, and I spoke to you guys as well for some projections. Johnny, Jeff LaCorey, we're projecting him as the starting right fielder come opening day.
Yeah, I think he's a guy who I had the fortunate opportunity to watch him in summer ball with in the Florida League, Summer League, and he was kind of the highly touted guy out of the in the league, and transfers over from Florida Southern. He had some draft some draft looks over the summer, but didn't get drafted. He comes here. I think this is for him. He's an opportunity to prove himself at the D1 level, and he matched in Division II. And we saw it in a lot of the fall ball. He had some home runs. Really has a lot of power. Big bat. I think he's somebody that another question mark for this team of could he produce at the D1 level? I fully think he can. He's somebody, look at him. He has the opportunity to do so. And I think he's a bat. The swing he's a very certain swing. I'm trying to think who he reminds me of. I'll get back to it, but I really love his swing. I think he's a guy that FIU, if he rolls over what he did at Florida Southern, I think he'll be a pivotal bat. And another guy where he's unknown now, but when you watch him into the third week, when season rolls around, you're like, dang, this guy's pretty good. So I think Jeff LaCorey is going to be a starter locked in 2024.
And he may be unknown too, but man, in the D2 level, this guy was known as well as summer ball, Johnny. I mean, I don't know how much you were able to watch him, but on summer ball, but I know you were able to watch him a decent.
I called the game where he had 2 home runs off my team, and
there
he made a saving catch before. He dominated our team. Shout out the Sanford River Rats. But
and on top of that, think about it. This guy was expected to possibly be drafted. Unfortunately, he didn't, and he'll have his opportunities if he continues to have success at the Division. If he starts to have success at the D1 level. But this is certainly a guy who FIU fans should be extremely interested in terms of what he could provide, as well as the power that he brings, the power factor. Jake, anything you want to add about LaCorey before we go into Keyshawn Frett?
No, I'm happy you pointed it out in this article, but Rich Whitten himself really spoke about how important it was to get a player like LaCorey into this squad. He from what I've been able to tell him and from what Rich said, he's he's a very nice guy, very cool guy, very thankful to be with a team like the Panthers, where I think he'll mesh very well. We were talking a while ago about this is a guy that we need to get on the podcast one way or the other. We need to get him on, man.
We've been trying.
It's been a long road. Eventually, look, Corey, if you're watching, we got to get you on, my guy. And you yourself, Kevin, had talked about how this is a guy that's very reliable, regardless of what spot in the outfield you want to put him in. I believe you said that right field, I think, makes the most sense for him, all things considered. But regardless, it's nice to have a player that's as reliable as all positions in the outfield. I think he even played a bit of first base as well. So it's nice to see a player like that join this team.
So Keyshawn Frett's the next name we're going to go into, and we're going to try to dive in as deep as we can. Thankfully, Jonny is available for a very long time, so long enough to do this. So Keyshawn Frett, Seminole State College, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonny, JUCO product, top 5 in the JUCO level in home runs hit, and he certainly made a name for himself during the Blue and Gold World Series. I believe he had a couple home runs there, but the one that Carlton and I were able to call on that Saturday. You can check it out on Twitter. Certainly, when you can, follow the
FIU broadcast is on our YouTube, by the way, for the Blue.
The whole broadcast is on our YouTube. Yeah, the Blue and Gold World Series game is all on there.
That was the second one, right? Or was it the third?
That was the second game of the series. And anyways, yeah, Keyshawn Frett, we projected him as our left fielder for this season. He could play first base if I recall, Jonny. He may have played first. But he could play you right field as well.
He was a catcher before
as well. And I think he may have the most power in this FIU team. Now we'll go into Guida and Brylan West, who are both first basemen, but outfield wise, Frett may have the most power.
Oh, easily. I mean, you look at him; he's a guy that's gonna mash baseballs. And if you watch the video on Twitter, I mean, I was on the field, the dugout. I did not even know where that ball landed. It just sailed and went somewhere. I think it went onto the soccer field. It went over the netting, and they have a huge netting to cover it up. But it was tattooed, that ball. But he's somebody that you look at him, he's gonna hit for power. I think another thing is another question mark. Oh, sorry. Replay that. You see. Yeah, look at this. Boom. Left center field.
We gotta get some audio from Carlton.
2 pitches driven.
Can you hear the audio? Let me know if you can hear the
audio. We can hear it.
All right, let me restart the video. Keyshawn.
1-2 pitches driven into left field. See ya later. Keyshawn Frett over the scoreboard. A 3-run bomb. Boy, like a bolt of lightning, that left the stadium.
Keyshawn Frett, folks. That's going to be the name to keep.
We got Kevin, it's you.
A lot this FIU season. What a bomb. Right down the middle. Takes it all the way to the FIU baseball scoreboard.
And he is hyped up. He almost caught up with Jeff.
Oh, look at Jonny down there.
Yeah, I see myself. I was gonna say it all comes.
God, you stick out like a sore thumb, Jonny.
I know. It all comes.
Shout out Carlton for the commentary. By the way.
It all comes full circle because now tomorrow, Carlton on the call with Keyshawn. You know?
Yeah, Carlton on the call with Keyshawn. Yeah, we got to get Carlton on this podcast soon. Man.
Oh, sure.
I mean, whatever questions we may or may not have for Keyshawn, we can just straight up ask him tomorrow before the game. That's really cool.
Oh, we got to. Someone has to tell Keyshawn to come well dressed.
Oh, what do you mean? Oh, yeah. Not like a suit and tie. Jonny and I never did suit and ties for these broadcasts.
Go for a polo with some slacks.
Okay, yeah, polo. Right.
Jonny, do not disturb. All right. Anyways, so we project Keyshawn at left field. Now, center field is certainly an interesting case, Jake, because you have a lot of options. You have Austin Deering, you have Jaquan Smith, you have Armando Becerra. Becerra is certainly the most versatile player, the quickest player. Actually, I lied. Jaquan Smith is the quickest, but Becerra is certainly the most versatile. He's actually a former Savannah Banana, Jake. So before they were what they are today, they were actually, I believe, in the league, and he found a lot of success with the Bananas there. But at Erskine College, Becerra slashed 337, 416, 532, 947 with 15 home runs, 85 RBI. Certainly has the this was such a hard decision for me because Becerra and Deering both showed a lot during the Blue and Gold World Series. I would say Deering was the best player hands down during the Blue and Gold World Series. Deering had two home runs. He robbed the home run off of Nick Batelli. but Becerra certainly has the speed and is certainly, I would say, the better defensive center fielder. But Deering could play you a nice left field, and we'll talk a little bit about platoon options in a bit there. But what do you like about Armando Becerra?
The speed, man. He is a fast boy. The stolen bases that speak for themselves. It's so nice to have a player who can almost guarantee a stolen base from first to second in any sort of instance. And Becerra is that kind of guy. You see there 24 bases stolen in 2022, 19 in 2023. You may think that the Savannah Bananas are all fun and no skill, but that is a serious group of players that put on a show no matter where they go. I got the chance to meet some of them, ironically, before a Florida Panthers game where they had a couple players and the mascots show up, which was super cool to see. But Becerra, it's nice to have a very fast player who, again, really good with the bat, 15 home runs and 85 RBIs, man, in 3 seasons of work at a different college. Those are some very nice numbers. He's fast enough, of course, to go after pop flies, and even deep balls out in the outfield. And of course, he's fast enough to pretty much make it so that you cannot pick him off going to either second or third, which is a very nice thing to have. He can absolutely make those 2-out rallies, or even just other rallies, just way more possible when you have a speedy player like him. So Becerra, I mean, we can't say enough good things about him. And Kevin, I'm happy to see you say that you think he is going to be the projected starting center fielder. So that's good to see. I think he deserves it.
That certainly was one of the spots that took me the longest to kind of see what I was gonna do. Not the corners. The corners were pretty easy from the get-go because there you had your options, but those are the set in stone guys. This is a completely new outfield, Jake. No matter who you put there, unless you put a Matt Corpus over there. But Jonny, let's talk a little Austin Deering. This is someone who stood out a lot, and we won't get into it because we don't have too much time left on our hands, and we've already gone for over an hour. But Austin Deering, 2 home runs. He had the great catch off, to rob Nick Batelli the home run on that Friday game. What do you like about Austin Deering? I know he didn't stand out too much from his former teams. He didn't have big time numbers, but this is a guy who is certainly either a really good platoon option or gets to the point where he's going to play.
Yeah, I think another name where he kind of, you look at the numbers in State College of Florida, I don't think it's eye-popping when you look at the JUCO numbers, but, he was Gatorade Player of the Year, from state in West Virginia. Was it West Virginia? Let me confirm. I think, yes, West Virginia. He was really, really talented. Comes to FIU now and, hasn't really proved his worth in fall ball. I mean, you look at the numbers, you can see it. He really was on a tear, 2 home runs. You talk about the catch he made in the World Series, and now he brings that over now into fall. He's another guy where he's another X factor because there's so many guys on the team where we saw a lot of the potential in fall ball, but it doesn't really count until we see what it looks like in the real games. But I'm excited to watch Austin Deering. He's a really, really down to earth, really, really good dude. All these guys are. That's another makes that team really interesting is the camaraderie I've seen within the dugout and the clubhouse. But another guy offensively, he can really hit. Defensively can really make some plays we've seen. And I'm excited to see what he can do. And hopefully if he keeps it going in here early spring and winter, he'll be a starter come opening day.
Followed up real quick with Jake Smith. This is your guy, Stanford River Rat.
Yeah, led the Florida League in steals. He led our team in steals. Kid named Gabe Santiago, he stole every single time he was on base. He was really good for Leesburg, but that's another story. No, but Jake Smith, I think the bat was going in the fall for him. I enjoyed watching him. He has the speed. He can be another platoon guy where, you have speed with Armando, but if Jake comes in, he can get on base hit. And, if you put him in the 9 hole, he can get on base, steal something, get the second, then you get top the order up with all these guys. So I'm so excited to see what lineups are going to work for the Panthers because they have so much versatility and options, which is really good. You want to have that competition. You want options on your roster, and FI has a lot of question marks, which is a good thing for this team because there's so many pieces offensively that will contribute this year.
And with Smith, it's also a good defensive replacement too. Late in the game, he can play all 3 outfield spots extremely efficiently. So this is definitely a good profile player, and he's going to be here for a bit. So once some guys graduate, he could step in and he'll play, or even transfer portal. One of the guys I do want to address in the outfield, the last one. I mean, we'll quickly mention Jamel Vera. I don't think he's going to play too much. That's what I heard, and obviously there's my projection. Fret Becerra, Licor going from left.
That's a good projection, Kevin. I like that.
Yeah. So yeah, Jamel, he certainly has a lot of room to grow. He's just a freshman, so That's why I'm kind of saying maybe he's not going to play much. But Hector Candelas, this is certainly a very fun player. He has the speed to get on base. And on top of that, look at those JUCO numbers. 429, 524, 742 with 9 home runs, 70 RBIs. Jake, really quick, because we got to get through these guys. Hector Candelas, this is one of the new guys on the FIU squad. He may see a lot of platoon action and right and left. I don't know, Johnny, maybe you could tell me in a bit after Jake talks here, just the ability at center field. But I think FIU is really just doing very well in that spot.
Yeah, having outfielders who have a very solid size and are very, very fast is very important for making sure that you have a reliable outfield that no matter what comes their way, they can get to the ball and they can either limit big offensive plays or they can just straight up get outs, which is, of course, very important. And you have a player like Candelas here who, again, 6 foot, 195 pounds. That is a very, very lightweight kind of player that you want there at the outfield for those sort of instances. But yeah, like you mentioned, not a whole lot of clips we can really say that we've seen from Candelas, but from what we have been able to see, I mean, he has been a very reliable player that, as you mentioned, I don't know how much we will see of him specifically. Like you mentioned, I love the idea of a sort of platoon player, especially during those Wednesday games, which of course FIU is going to have a lot of to begin the season and then round it up. So it'll be nice to see how he sort of meshes there. And again, the Kevin's projections, despite how good I think they are not the lay of the land, right? They are not the law. And Rich Witten's going to have his hands full finding out who he wants to go for that Long Island game to begin this season. I think that's a good problem to have, right? Because you have so much talent that you need to distribute. And regardless of who you go with, I think FIU's outfield is going to be one of the better points of interest for this team.
Yep. So next, I'll quickly run through the infield. Let's do first base really quick. There are 3 of them on the roster: Adrian Figueroa, Ryan Guida, which I'll let you talk about, Jake.
Lots of experience here.
And then Brylan West. So on the D1 baseball profile that they did, I won't mention too much of it, obviously, because it's behind a paywall. So I don't want to just throw everything out there. But
paywalls are not good.
Guida and West are, according to Rich Witten, the 2 most polished hitters on the team. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Johnny. Let's talk a little bit about Adrian Figueroa, though, because his size is certainly what stands out. 6'5", one of the longer players, one of the longest first basemen I've actually seen in terms of arm length. Jake, what do you like about Adrian Figueroa? He's been here for a very long time, so you've been able to see him for a minute.
For a minute is an understatement, man. He is a sort of a veteran sort of player for this team, and 2023. I don't know if I would go as far to say it was a breakout season for Figueroa, but it was another very reliable a year to his time as a Panther. 2 home runs, not exactly the sort of big bomb hitter, but he is very good at getting you either a single or a double. 33 RBIs is very solid, and he is a sort of a South Florida product from Doral Academy, like you had mentioned. He is just a very reliable player that we have seen a lot of action for years now, because since 2021, when he was a freshman, when he was starting off with FIU, we saw a lot of him then, and we're seeing a lot of him now. And it's nice that he's going to complete his career with FIU. He's one of those players that he is Mr. Reliable for FIU. One of those guys who you can depend upon for the majority of the season. And then we get to Ryan, and I mean, what can we not say about Ryan? He is, again, one of the faces. If you want to argue that Alex Sanchez was the face of FIU or baseball last season, I think Ryan could be the face of FIU baseball this season. And again, he's a very cool dude, huge hockey fan, which of course is great to see. And of course, we've had him on the podcast before. We're probably going to have him on again, because he is that kind of guy, right, Kevin? So, well, I mean, his hitting, he is, as you mentioned, probably the most consistent hitter on the team. Has a very nice looking swing, and when he hits that ball, man, Jesus, 11 home runs, some very solid numbers, 50 RBIs. I think he had that one stretch in 2022 where he had home run after home run after home run. He had a very, very phenomenal, or not 2022, 2023 campaign, and of course the Valley League. He again put up some very solid numbers there. So. You never want to guarantee who you think will be the starters and feel super confident, but I feel like Guida at the DH is it's a lock. It is absolutely a lock. He's worked hard to get to this point. He is a lock for DH, and he's going to be a very good DH.
I didn't mention the fact that Guida could possibly see action at first base, something he did not do whatsoever in 2023.
Really?
But
Okay.
Guida could see it during the midweeks, which would be huge, allowing, kind of a rotating DH a little bit between Brylan. You can maybe see a little bit of Hector, Austin Deering there. So certainly would work out there. But Jonny, talk to us a little bit about Brylan West. Certainly one of my favorite players on the team, one of the best personalities on this squad. We saw the TikTok that you did with him not too long ago there. I mean, look, and
Yes.
about every player. These guys are one of the nicest people you will meet on the FIU campus. They're probably one of the nicest overall athletic teams in the campus. And Jonny, you could attest to that. If there's one thing that FIU baseball is certainly trying to nail down, it is camaraderie and it is the chemistry that this team is building. And they certainly have done that this season. But talk to us about Brylan West as we are kind of wrapping up here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brylan is an ultimate really, really good guy. He said it. Camaraderie. I think this team is, from what I want to do, help, tell their stories and promote them. They are always willing to be involved with anything. So even a corny Instagram I made yesterday, they're down to do it. But yeah, as a hitter, I mean, he had a cool story. Obviously, we had him on the podcast a couple of weeks, about a month ago, and talked about, had no offers, no looks, and kind of had to prove his case and went this JUCO route. He looked at the numbers, 312, obviously not a whole lot of home, or this is summer ball, you look at it. But ball, that's great numbers in summer ball, 33 RBIs, and that's a league in the Northwoods League, which is a grinding, it's almost like minor league baseball. You play like what? I think 60 or 50 games. It's a lot of baseball, but he really showed it. We saw some power with him, and Coach Whitten alluded to it. He's a really polished hitter. But I'm anxious to see what will happen. Obviously, we know Guida is going to be a starter. That's no doubt. But, what else would FIU do? Obviously, we have Brylan West, but I think it'll be interesting. But I'm excited to see Brylan West out competing. He can hit for sure, and defensively, he plays great first base. But I'm excited to see how he'll hit. He's a great guy you could have in that 5, 6, 7. He kind of reminds me of I don't know who he reminds me of.
Okay.
Jeez, all right.
I'm gonna get that comp soon, but I would say he's a great hitter, and I want to see him ball out again. Great guy.
Conference USA, I believe, made the Conference USA all-first freshman team, Royland Quevedo. I think Roy's going to settle in at second. Obviously, as Coach Whitten said, and that is my projection. It'll be Roy Quevedo at second base. He struggled in his first year, but he did get on base a lot. But aside from that, didn't get, it was a tough stretch for someone like Roy. But obviously a freshman, he was put in that situation, a lot of injuries, specifically Steven Ondina, who went down, and he's now, I believe, at Arizona. So definitely a good spot for him. Certainly excited to see what Roy does. He says he has a lot more power in himself. He believes this is certainly one I want you to talk about, Jonny. I believe he's also from Israel. Chase Engelhardt, he's Jewish.
No, he's Jewish. Yes,
he is Jewish, not from Israel, but he is Jewish.
Tulane as well, right?
Jewish.
One of the transfer portal pickups.
This is one of the crazy stories. He was a freshman All-American. I mean, this is the best of the best, and he's now here at FIU. So it certainly shows, I guess, the drop off, unfortunately, but he is still a very talented player. We think he could be one of the best players on FIU, maybe one of the best players in the conference. The upside is there. So
yeah, I like Chase a lot. I mean, obviously, another Jew. He's a cool guy. But I think for him, he had some injuries that kind of, impacted him over the course of a couple of years, which kind of, kind of impacted him on the offensive side of the ball. But defensively, he's really, really good. And I think he's definitely aiming to get that third base spot. There's a lot of things that can happen, but I think he's a guy you look at. He has the talent, he has the tools. And, what I've seen, he's getting back to that where he was the freshman All-American and getting the bat back. But, yeah, he's another guy I'm really excited to see coming into donning the blue and gold.
Yeah, let's continue on. Actually, I do want you to touch on a little bit on Andre Martinez. I know we've seen him a little bit at, I believe, third base. So that is one of the spots at FIU that is certainly up for grabs. And that was another spot which actually was extremely hard for me to choose on. But Andre Martinez, at the University of Charleston. I believe this is a JUCO, I want to say. But
no, Division II.
Oh, okay, nice. Division II. 358, 461, 41, 943, 3 homers. Not a power guy, certainly, and doesn't have the body for it either. But he's certainly more of a slap hitter, speedster. Another guy who should get a lot of midweek opportunities. Jake, if you want to talk a little bit on
cool thing, he's coming back home. He went to Nova High School in Davie. I talked to him about he's really excited to come back to South Florida. But yeah, he's back home, and look at the numbers. It was really, really good in Division II. Obviously, summer ball. Guys have their struggles, but another guy you can bring from a depth perspective, and another guy I'm intrigued to watch and how he competes for time this year.
Sammy Fisher. This is certainly a guy who made his name for himself during the Blue and Gold World Series game. He hit a home run, I believe, on the Saturday game. It was Oppo Field, Oppo Taco. 6'2", 197. Jake, this is just a freshman from Columbia, but there's a lot of upside for someone like Sammy Fisher who could build in more into his body and gain more power as we go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The fact that he's a freshman and he has he is 6'2" as a freshman, it's very interesting to see. And like you had mentioned that in this article, the midweek games are definitely one of those testing zones that we can see what future lineups for FIU as the years go on could look like. And you have a player like Samuel, as you say, Sammy Fisher, that absolutely hits that bill. So very one of the more interesting, I want to say prospects, but players who might have a bright future for this team as the years go on.
Yep. And Fisher also could slot in at third, could slot in at first. I expect him to play a lot during the midweeks. I don't think he minds me saying this, but big shout out to Ryan Guida for helping me a lot with this article. Legend Ryan Guida. He will be on the podcast very soon. But yeah, he helped me a lot with the Sammy Fisher one. He gave me a lot of the info that is on this article. So I appreciate him a lot, and I appreciate Jonny for also helping me out with this article. We did a lot of these projections,
and I published it.
And you published it. You edited
it.
I'll give you the props for that. Matthew Corpus, he's been with FIU, certainly got to root for. He's been dealing with a lot of injury. He's a super utility type of guy, can play outfield and infield, should be getting some midweek action. And then finally, Trayson Cameron. I'm very intrigued to see what Trayson Cameron can do. He's hitting 88, 91 on the fastball, but he's topped out at 92. So he is a pitcher. He's the only true two-way player on FIU's squad. Jonny, this is someone who I'm actually very excited at. And when I was talking to Guida, he told me it's very likely we just see him stick as a pitcher. But, I mean, having that true two-way guy certainly helps. And you're muted before we start talking.
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting guy. Another one that was highly recruited for FIU. Local Vero Beach. Yeah, I mean, he's a two-way guy. We saw him pitch and hit in the World Series. But interesting to see. I mean, he'll be a pitcher. I like the two ways. It's something that I think what makes it unique in college is two ways are very, very normal. It kind of that doesn't take its course until like when they go professional. But yeah, I'm excited to see what he can bring. He has a lot of potential as a freshman. I think he'll have a really good career here at FIU for sure.
All right, moving on to the pitchers. Well, my projections are Figgy at first, Roy Quevedo at second, Alex Ulloa at short. Chase Engelhardt is the third baseman, and Ryan Guida will be the designated hitter.
I love the combination of newcomers and veteran players taking up the infield. It's
oh my god, I'm an idiot. I didn't put Alex Ulloa on the preview.
What?
He's the one player I missed.
Well, off the top of your head, what can you tell us about?
Yeah, great defensive shortstop, arguably the best defensive player on this roster. Man, there's no way I missed him. I thought I wrote about him first. Well, anyways, I'll add him to the preview later. Certainly a guy who I'm very high on. He was drafted by the Houston Astros in the 4th round of the draft. So, yeah. I think we're going to end it here, Jake. We could do a part 2 another time.
I was just about to mention that, Kevin. This absolutely deserves a part 2, maybe next. I don't know when we'll get to it because we have a lot of awesome guests lined up. But you know what? It's fun to talk a bit about baseball. Obviously, there's still some time before we get to the baseball season. Of course, maybe we can, I don't know, go over the rest of the list with maybe a player or two. Of course, you have Ryan Guida, who you spoke of.
We'll get on. You know what? Let's do this. Let's get Guida on as one of the next guests, like right away. Jonny?
Sure.
Johnny's the SID for baseball. So, no, absolutely. I agree. I think we're also going to have some amazing guests next week in the basketball side of things. I don't want to reveal too much, but we have some great ideas, and boy, it's an hour and we are just about 90 minutes in here, folks. But Johnny's only been on for like 30, 40 minutes.
Feels like more. I'll say that. Alrighty, folks. Let's wrap it up here. Men's basketball tomorrow. I will be there with Jake. Alex Krutchik will be there. I will be there. Johnny.
And you all have to wish Kevin a very happy birthday. What could be a better present than an FIU win taking on the New Mexico State Aggies at 7 p.m.? Should be a fun one. If you want to say hey, if you want to wish Kevin happy birthday, get him some free food because it's his birthday.
But
We'll
be having free food. Don't worry. It'll be fed.
Oh, by the way, I'm coming prepared. Hey, look at this, Kevin.
Oh yeah.
Wow. All righty.
I got a gift planned up too. Don't worry. I got a gift for you too.
Oh.
Johnny's
Look
also
at
going
that.
to swipe me in. Is he going to swipe me in the 8th Street?
Unfortunately, there's
better than A Street.
I don't think there's a
Better
there is
than
not an FIU game during my birthday, which is only it's 19 days away on the 29th. So crazy. Both of our birthdays in January. So Johnny, when's your birthday again?
My birthday is February 21st next month.
They're all relatively close to each other.
Yeah, right.
We're
all winter. We're all winter birthdays.
February 21st. It's January, February birthdays are elite. They're elite.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up here. Johnny, Jake, myself, Alex Krutchik is going to be there tomorrow. Keyshawn Frett's going to be there. Carlton Gillespie is going to be there. It's going to be a fun night at FIU men's basketball. As always, and we always do it, Paws up.
Paws up.